When life throws you a curveball, how are you going to handle adversity? Welcome to the Fearless Mindset Podcast, where you're about to go on a journey as I interview security, business, and entertainment leaders on what it takes to stay fearless. I'm your host, Mark Ledlow, and enjoy today's episode. Hello, everybody. This is Mark Ledlow and a Fearless Mindset Podcast, and I'm honored to have a good friend of mine, Robert L. Dodge, representing G4S Corporate Risk, and he's been able to scratch some time out of his busy slam schedule, handling multiple projects throughout the world that he does, and just want to welcome you aboard, Robert, and thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Hey, Mark, it's great to be here. It's good to talk to you over video, and
times have changed.
Old times, man.
Yeah, I think I was slated to do like 3 conferences in 2020, and I made 0 of them.
Yeah. 2020 has not been a good conference year, but
ouch.
Well, we're improvising, adapting, and overcoming, right? That's what we
do. Absolutely.
Good stuff.
Yeah, to give an intro to Robert here, to all the viewers at the podcast, Robert's been a good mentor of mine. He's been a friend. I don't want to go too much into depth, but he has really coached me in how to make smart choices and not burn bridges in this industry, which I know a lot of EP agents do. They get one job, they're working, let's say, in San Francisco, and they're making $50 an hour, and then they get an offer in LA, $100 an hour. And Robert's been that inspiration for me to be loyal, be transparent, and be honest, and not to burn bridges. And Robert's been a huge factor in my career. So I want to definitely give you accolades for that, Robert.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. And, it makes it easy because you're a class act. Your word is your bond, and you always deliver. So we've always enjoyed partnering with you when we can. And you've always done, great outcomes for us when you've helped us out. So
I appreciate
thank you.
That. Yeah, so Robert is now as the president of Corporate Risk, North America, and then you're also in charge of Central and South America, and just took over the Asia region and some other areas, and you're very busy. So go ahead and explain what your role is there at G4S and what that looks like for you.
Yeah, I mean, as many of your listeners probably know, G4S is a very large company. I mean, the last check, about 550,000 people. We're the third largest employer in the world, and we operate in close to, I think, 95 countries. And we're really in the risk management side of the house. So think about the high impact, high consequence types of issues that our customers or clients have. 4 main areas, really: protective services, mostly plainclothes, executive protection, workplace violence mitigation. We do intelligence as a service. We have a large global risk operations center down in Jupiter, Florida. So we do all kinds of remote intelligence products, monitoring, crisis management response around the globe, travel risk management support for our clients. We do corporate investigations, intellectual property, trade secret theft, things along those lines, workplace violence related investigative actions. And then the last kind of area is in what I call risk consulting, which is, helping become our clients' trusted advisors really around the globe, telling them to go left instead of right when they need to keep them safe. Anything in that area, risk assessments, crisis management planning. So we do all those things on a regular basis. Corporate risk is a global business, so it's very likely that our client in San Francisco, Mark, has a problem in Mexico, Russia, China, India, you name it. So you really got to be able to be a scholar of the world in our side of the house. And that's the role we fit within G4S, a small, agile, nimble team that deals with the more serious, risk management issues for our customers around the globe.
With that being said, Robert, how many countries are you responsible for under your umbrella?
Well, really the world, right? Because it doesn't matter, where our clients have problems. We will operationalize anywhere. Now, to be transparent, we can't cover every segment. Nobody in this business can. But we use partners, and we have resources. But with that said, there's probably about 2,000 of us full-time in the corporate risk related or specialized investigative world within G4S around the globe. So, that's a pretty big number there that we can draw from. And then sometimes we draw, Mark, from our security side of the house that, we have some very talented people in the security divisions that we can kind of, the military take TDY and have them work for us on projects. And then the third leg of the stool is really, like the relationship we've had with you, Mark, and your company, trusted, vetted, third-party partners, contractors that we have around the world, geographically dispersed, that have unique skills. And a lot of our work is transactional, Mark. It's Friday night, you're sitting down for a nice dinner, and the client calls and they said, hey, I need to get this problem solved in Bangladesh. Well, not easy to do, but you got to have those resources ready to go. So we call them and they deliver.
And one big thing I know you're proud of is the ROC, that the new organization you implemented there at G4S, and you're pretty proud of that. And that's real-time, reactionary, putting fires out.
Yeah, the ROC's really, we're really quite proud of it. I mean, it's a converged center. I mean, what's unique about it is we've taken, kind of command and control, emergency communication type operations functions, married them up with intelligence as a service, analysts, international travel, risk and executive protection support, risk management, with remote video monitoring, full suite of remote video monitoring capabilities. We have some really cool situational awareness technologies, Mark, there that we operationalize for our clients. We have something called our Global Asset Matrix Database, which is basically a virtual library, and that's our secret sauce. So if you need a 6'2" person that's former special forces in Casablanca, Morocco, that can kill you with a pencil, just joking, but we would store all that kind of data on licensing. So that's how we operationalize quickly. So we're not just an intelligence center, but we're also a monitoring capability, and then we can then go to operationalize. So we're not just going to tell you the world's ending, we're going to tell you how we're going to save you, and then we're actually going to make that happen. That's what I think is unique to what we do there versus a lot of other centers that might just do monitoring, or they might just do alarm response, or be intelligence focused. We combine all those attributes for one-stop shop, which I think is kind of unique here in the world.
So what you've done there is taken protective intelligence and you merged it and partnered with the boots on the ground, EP, bodyguard, protector, agent. Is that kind of what's happened there? Yeah,
that's a big part of what we do. Intelligence-led risk management is really key, right? Because one, it's cost effective. If I can help our clients, be more cost effective and add value, right, and get ahead of that potential risk, that's the value of a protective intelligence, right? We can know to go left instead of right and keep our people in tune with, valid situational awareness and keep them safe around the globe. So, and really today with virtualization, Mark, everything's becoming available online. If we want to watch street cameras in Frankfurt, Germany, we can. If we want to count the boats going for the Taiwanese Strait, we can. Everything's becoming available online to those who need to know, and either can pay for it or get it commercially or through governmental sources by having talented people that know how to operationalize that stuff. So you remember the 24, show with Jack Bauer? He's always about to get killed by the terrorists, and then the command center with Chloe sends him the floor plans or the secret information that allows him to save his life. That stuff's all real world, and shame on us if we don't put that car, the camera in that car that's going across the border into Tijuana, and then we can also support the agents on the ground with real-time monitoring from a command and control kind of support vector. So we're doing that. Do we have all the answers around the world? No, because a lot of parts in the world, they're behind on available electronic sources. But as they come more and more available, we're going to be there to make sure we can help support operations and fuse them together, right, Mark? That's the new world.
Amen. I mean,
Yeah.
Fred Burton brought that up in our podcast. Mike Trott brought that up in his book. And protective intelligence is the way of the future. And if you're in the EP industry, you may want to check into how to get into that, because that's going to be the way of the future in technology. And
our fastest growing segment in our business, Mark, is intelligence as a service. Outsourced global security operations center for clients that don't want their own center. We're providing that, or just, hey, I want to rent an analyst to monitor the Venezuelan election for 20 hours a week, and everything else behind. You talk about that with the elections, Mark, coming around. That's Absolutely. The number one part of our toolkit. Let's get some situational awareness around what's happening with the potential threats out there, and advise our clients near real time, and then they can make decisions on escalations and security and all that. But that's the foundation, using a risk-based approach of everything we're doing now, and intelligence is vital.
Wow, who would have ever guessed?
Yeah.
Things have changed. Jack Bauer was my favorite show at 24th. That was my favorite show of all time.
Me too. Love it. There were, what, 8 seasons, I think?
I think he ran 8 seasons, then he cut it off.
Seasons, yeah.
I'm gonna go to England and make something else up now.
That was 24, and then The Shield was my 2 favorites. Yeah, but there's not much good on TV now.
No, I don't think so. I actually played in a SWAT role in TV in the TV show The Shield. So I thought I'd throw that out there.
I need to find. Tell me what episode. I want to see if I can spot you, man. You'd be good at that.
I have the gas mask on.
You got the gas mask on.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
It was fun. Let's jump into we're going to the election season. Pre and post, and how can businesses protect their infrastructure and their employees as we look at the civil unrest? What's your secret sauce, Robert, to that?
Yeah, I think that the first thing they need to do is recognize that the potential is there, and not wait to the last minute, right? Because the resources out there, Mark, are drying up, right? There's only so many qualified Mark Ledlows out there, right? That people, whether it's their own employees or third party, trusted, licensed, vetted contract resources that many of the risk management, firms have those relationships with. And sometimes the price of poker goes up too, right? The costs go up, and, there's X amount of resources, but you got, 10 buyers. Well, they can charge more. So, we encourage clients to get ahead of that. We advise them to figure out, again, use that intelligence as a service to monitor what's important to them, and provide them with the outputs to help them make competent risk-based decisions. We love when we can get in there early and do things like risk assessments of their facilities, of their executive security program, whatever it is that's keeping them up at night, for us to kind of come in and be that trusted advisor. So there is no one size fit all. I mean, right now, Mark, we're getting calls every day from a variety of corporations, and they all have different concerns and needs. So there isn't one kind of silver bullet here. What you need to understand is the election is one symptom. We've got the underlying issues around the medical pandemic, right? We have the social justice issues brewing, right? So there's this toxic scenario out there that could cause a massive escalation, and protest peaceful. Then at night, we all know what happens there. Then, rioting and things like that. So preparedness is key. Thinking about getting the right security assets in place now, not the night before. Think about that 5-day window around the election. That's what we're predicting is going to be challenging. Think about communicating safety and security tips to your employees about, what to do in this scenario, keeping them potentially away from these downtown or corridors or areas that have seen prior protests, Mark. I mean, it's likely to repeat itself, right, in those areas. So lots of things that can be done, hardening up, their facilities, making sure, fire extinguishers are working, emergency exits are clear, that you don't have things that are projectiles out front that people can use to throw through your windows. And of course, really thinking about your employees and keeping them out of those areas. I had one client ask me about thinking about shutting down travel nationally leading up to that whole week. Basically, no employee travel around the country.
Wow.
So they have to make those decisions. I gave them my viewpoints. But there's lots of things out there. How bad it'll get or what it'll be, who knows? Nobody really knows. But preparedness is key, and then the thinking of the what if scenarios is more than appropriate right now.
I know it's kind of probably hard, like you said, nobody knows who the threats are and who those unknown actors will be that will pop their heads up in the next month or so. But is there any threats out there that are threats to corporations and shareholders that you guys have noticed, like maybe carousels? Everybody, Hezbollah and Hamas have been kind of quieted off and disappeared off the radar for a while. Is there any indicators of possibilities with that getting involved with everything going on?
Yeah, I haven't heard any, or seen any, specific targeting memos from, the FBI or anything around that, around, international terrorism groups. I think they've been neutered pretty well. You think about a threat, you look at existence, capability, intent, right? I think capability is clearly lacking, right, with the international travel system all but shut down. Terrorists don't want to get quarantined just like anybody else, right? You have to stay in a hotel room. They're worried about their own safety, right? And I think that applies to, organized crime elements as well. I think the concerns are more nuanced in the United States, right? And you look at that classic opportunists, criminal opportunist activities that are out there. You do have an escalation mark, and the trends bear that out. And you saw, sadly, the shooting in Denver. But, there's counter protesters are much more prevalent now so you have, anytime you had two groups that are on two sides of the ideological street corner, right, and political issues, that ramps things up tremendously. There's a lot of passion about this election. There's, again, all the social justice issues that are out there, and on and on and on. So I think, the traditional risks we've been seeing around protests, riots, street violence, burning, arson, wrong place, wrong time scenarios for people that haven't been paying attention and they're walking down the street in the middle of a mob type of thing. Interesting movie I saw the other day was and I'd seen it a while back and I rewatched it, was The Battle of Seattle.
Oh, wow.
Ray Liotta and all that. And that just shows what can really go wrong in a downtown setting, right? And how innocent people get caught up. But that's a really interesting story about how sophisticated the groups were that were trying to keep the WTO function from going. So it's an interesting case study. Hopefully we don't see that level here in the United States, but certainly possible. Who knows?
Hey, Robert, not to change the subject, but what is the most demanding part of your position as president of G4S Corporate Risk? What's the most demands you see in a day?
Well, listen, if you're in business, you have pressures, right? I mean, there's you got to keep everybody happy. You got to manage your organization. You got to, deliver value to the company.
Right.
We're a large public company. We have expectations every year. You have budgets. You got to perform, right? And no is not an answer, right? You got to ever get it done or you don't. So there's all those pressures. They never stop. And when you're in business, whether it's keeping all your clients happy, not dropping any balls, collecting your bills from all your clients is a full-time job for many of us.
I'm sure.
Some of them, have challenged payment terms and all kinds of things. So, but all of that's heightened right now, right? I mean, a lot of our sectors that we normally do business at are completely gone. There is no international travel security right now. Travel risk management, there's none. Nobody's traveling. They can't travel. Workplace violence. Nobody's in the workplace, so there's not nearly as much of that type of stuff. Consulting, right? Everybody's watching every penny. So proactive things companies usually do, they're not doing right now. Everybody's just in a kind of in a state of trauma and just trying to figure this whole thing out. So we're trying to take care of the clients we have, do good work, and support them, and focus on what they need today, but also tomorrow. And that's a day in the life of for us. And Mark, the neatest thing about what I'd say is I always tell people I won't be the richest guy when I get to the retirement home, but I'll have some of the best stories. And you know that you've been in the industry. We do some incredibly interesting things, and we have stuff going on, and just today in probably 50, 60 countries around the world, and some of it's investigative, intellectual property type stuff. Others are, security related details and things like that, or consulting. But yeah, it's a fascinating business, and I never get tired of it. The biggest challenge is, Mark, and it's high pressure. It's always, a lot of what we do is consulting. It's last minute. Hey, hair on fire, save me. And it's tough to be perfect all the time and get it completely right. But it is a pass-fail evolution, and that's why we charge more than the security industry, right? And that's why we use, I have some fantastic people. They've got, incredible backgrounds from, military, special forces, law enforcement, all that. But they're battle tested. It's just a matter of getting them engaged in the private sector, right, and understand all the nuances of that. But it's wouldn't change it for the world, Mark. I've been doing this, as you know, my background, military, government, private sector for 30 years now, I think it is. So love it, love every minute of it. And
30 years, long time.
Yeah, a lot of fun.
It's gonna be a good book when I get to read it.
That's right. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that part. I know you're a great leader, and from your directors that work underneath you, they speak highly of your leadership. And John Maxwell says in his book, everything rises and falls with leadership, and I've been able to witness that for my professional career.
Yeah, thanks, man. And listen, and also above me, I credit my bosses here at G4S, because they allow us to have made the investments and allow us to do what we need to do to be successful. So there's always something behind those success stories, right? To be fair. So thanks for that, Mark.
Hey, you're welcome. Okay, we're going to switch it up a little bit and make it more fun and interesting. I'm going to the geopolitical view of what's going on out there. Since the elections popped up, I really haven't heard of what's going on next to our next door neighbor down south in Mexico. And I know, that was considered the most dangerous place in the world over Iraq and Afghanistan in the war. And you hear about foreign nationals being involved with the cartel. You hear about, foreign entities funding cartel stuff and helping them transport stuff, right, globally to keep their distribution channels going for their drugs and everybody addicted. Do you have any thoughts on what's going on with that and why we're not hearing from?
Yeah, Mexico's been quiet for us. There's not a lot of, work going on in the security field down there. The criminal element, again, is also concerned with the same thing. They don't like pandemics either, right? They're probably concerned about their own health and welfare. I think some of their activities have been, curtailed because business isn't what it usually is, right? You can't get anything if you can't get to people, right? So I think that's it. They may be involved in more cyber-related things, or escalating. We just did a webinar here 2 days ago with the FBI and a couple of our cyber experts, and we had a great discussion on, remote and home workers and all the spear phishing scams and everything else that's just escalating along the lines of employees that are circumventing, corporate IT, corporate security policies to do what they need to do, which is creating this massive vulnerability. And then you have, the whole insider risk scenario of, loss of sensitive data because they're worried about getting let go and I need this information for my next job or to sell to, a foreign intelligence agency and everything in between. But yeah, not a lot going on in Mexico from a demand request right now. There is no travel going in. I think supply chains have kind of slowed down a little bit. The cartels are still there. They're sporadic, battles, but I think they're even keeping a low key presence from what I've seen.
Wow, I didn't know that. That makes sense with COVID-19 involved.
Yeah.
Now, I've heard too that there are big backers behind human trafficking. Is that true? Do you have any intel on that on the human trafficking side with the cartel?
I don't. No, that's not something I've been. We've really get focused on that. But I wouldn't be surprised if they're heavily involved in that as well. I know they're trafficking. I know the greatest source of revenue is their if you mean trafficking people, get them across the border. Yeah, right. But actual sexual exploitation and maybe that all goes together of that. Sure. I'm sure that they're involved. I wouldn't doubt that. The cartels are much more than just drugs. Everybody seems to think they're just, 99.9% drug dealers. Oh no, they're involved in a whole bevy of financial and other types of criminal activity, right?
Sure, I heard real estate and money laundering, washing the money and taking it and buying property, different shell companies, all kinds of crazy stuff. Yeah. Next question I got for you is, we really haven't heard much about Venezuela lately. They've been kind of quiet in the last 6 months to a year. And I've heard stories about they've been working with Russia a little bit and Iran and trading oil and stuff. And what's going on with the regime? Any intel on down there? What's happening with that regime?
Yeah, no, Venezuela's, just a place nobody has done any business. I mean, from a U.S. multinational capacity or any of our European nobody's doing business there. It's basically dying a slow, ugly death as a country. And it's really tragic and sad. You have lots of people fleeing to Colombia and other places. Trinidad, there's tons of Venezuelans going to Trinidad. Just all kinds of problems. I mean, Maduro's still there. The Iranian issue is around. They're trying to sneak in oil into Venezuela. There's relationship. Venezuela has often been a proxy of Russia as well. So wouldn't be surprised if there's activity. They support Maduro, and they're there, but they have just an enormous. Their economy is just on a death spiral. They have all kinds of internal issues, but there really isn't any business activity there that I've seen over the last year. And the reason you're not hearing much about it is because there's so many other things in the news than the focus really on Maduro. He's the lesser of the evils right now.
Sure.
But he's still in power, and his people are still suffering. So that's kind of the status quo, the way I know it.
That makes sense. Wow, crazy times.
Yeah.
Now, lastly, I know we talked offline about 2021 and what's going to look like for the security industry as a whole and the executive protection industry. Everybody's kind of wondering what's going to happen in 2021. Is business going to pop, get better, or what's your take on that theory and forecast?
Yeah, I mean, the executive I think 2021 is going to kind of be like a trap year. It is going to be a struggle because I think COVID is going to. We have to figure out how to live with COVID. It's not going away. And I think that process is going to take some time. And because of that, corporate travel, corporate meetings, business activities, things that, support the executive, or that the executive protection industry supports simply aren't going to happen. Now, that may be offset with increased economic strife, civil unrest, where there may be more things around protecting executives at their campus, at their home, personal protection, which in the U.S. Maybe it was only for the highest net worth folks and the largest CEOs. That you may see some tailoring of that to less prominent, less visible people because of the criminal element or opportunity crime risk that could happen due to further deterioration or racial issues or relations or militia groups or whatever else is out there. But I think the international part of that's the cross-border part of that's going to be extremely slow next year, and maybe start to pick up a little bit towards after Q2 into Q3, Q4 next year. So I think that the executive protection professionals have to be very flexible. They've got to be opportunistic. They're going to have to maybe do some functions that aren't quite what they're used to, and maybe downgrade a little bit to some of this higher level security work that's out there. And because that has really been increasing here in the United States because of the issues. The downside to that stuff is last minute, get out here. We need you here on fire. So you can't turn those jobs away if you want to work. So you got to be somebody, reach out to your contacts, let them know you're interested to work, be flexible, because those are the guys who are going to get the calls. The guys that are there, that do a good job, they're flexible, and they're ready to roll.
You always taught me to keep my phone on 24/7. If you don't answer that phone call, you got to go to the next guy. And it's unfortunate. Everybody just wants to text and they don't even answer their phone. And I think the demise is now everybody's on unemployment, and they figure, like, I know we were trying to staff some projects for you and your staff and your team. And what we ran into was, well, do I take my unemployment check, or do I, avoid COVID and just sit home and, there's a trade-off. But hey, I think you can make more dollars and cents if you're working versus taking an unemployment check. But, that's people's calls.
Mark, it's a great point. I mean, it's a tough time, right? We've been fortunate. We've actually done fairly well this year, but we have the benefit of being part of a large organization. But a lot of our competitors have struggled. I'm sure there's some other companies doing well in this environment, but we're seeing I'm getting a lot of companies trying to sell all kinds of things. So there is a big economic cost to this time frame we're in, and it's tough. And I'll certainly try and help anybody out there in the industry any way I can. And we're filling a few open spots right now and trying to bring the best of the best in. But we just all got to hang in there together. And we're blessed. We're in a great country, Mark. Support our country and do the best and be professionals in our industry, and just see where it goes. But it's I'm predicting a challenging year next year overall.
Good to hear. I mean,
nothing will be
good
easy.
From your level, way up there at 30,000 feet. You have a good pulse of what's taking place out there, and it's good advice for all the listeners that want to get in the business and be a bodyguard for a celebrity. Well, you may be sitting at their house or at the corporate estate's house for a long time because there's just not much movement going on around. And I wanted to hit, you guys are trying to fill some jobs out there, Robert, for your division up in, I think, New York or something like that. I saw some posting on LinkedIn.
Yeah, we do. We're filling one up there, and we just filled one in the Midwest.
Right.
And so, those are some, and we'll have others coming out in the new year, and some of them are client related, some of them are just part of our management team, and we're always looking for good talent. We've been fortunate to add some most of the team, Mark, but we're out there, and that's what it's all about. It's a people business.
It is a people business. You got to have people skills to get around it.
Absolutely right, Mark. That's it. That's the most important thing. And I don't care if you're James Bond or Curly, Larry, and Moe, man. If you can't integrate with that client and make them feel good about why you're there, it's
Not going to happen.
You're not producing to the way you should be.
It's not all about having a weapon. You got to have other tool belts in your tool set to retrieve from just a gun. Because here's a question about the gun thing. I mean, out of all your clients, what's the percentage of them wanting someone armed? Out of all your clients, is it a very low percentage?
It depends. I mean, there's a lot of, we have different types of client sets. We have some clients that are professional security people, security managers. They were in law enforcement, military, just like we are, a war. And they have those backgrounds, and they've kind of defined what their true needs are, and they'll come to us and say, hey, I want an armed agent to do A, B, C, D, or I want them unarmed. There's others that don't maybe have that knowledge or background, and they want guidance. And so a lot of times we're also looking at our internal risk picture, right? I'm not going to put our people at risk just because a client doesn't want to, pay a bill or doesn't want to pay to properly protect their assets. So we look at things from a real legal, internal risk management standpoint. And what's the guy on the ground facing? And if it's a really aggravated threat, we don't want to just bring a knife to a gunfight. We want to have a proper, force on force scenario, so we can properly protect our clients. That's key. But with a weapon comes a lot of, right? And we have, as you know, you're a contractor to our organization. We have an enormous amount of compliance oversight, measure twice, cut once type of philosophy, that we do. And you can't have a tough scenario out there. Nobody wants a bad day when something goes wrong with a gun or a shooting on site and you're not properly credentialed or whatever. So that's something we spend an enormous amount of time via our risk operations center. We have separations of duties, oversight. So we can't just file bankruptcy if we do something wrong. We're a large company. People will come after us. So we are very, very cautious and careful on our armed programs across the company. It doesn't matter if it's security or our risk management side. And as far as I'm concerned, if you have to pull your weapon, it's the last possible scenario. We've already failed. So,
amen to that.
Yeah.
But they always taught us, like when I went to the EP school, that on that one client you had in Southern California, they always, said, get off the X before you pull the gun out. You just get off the X, get that client off the X, get them evacuated, cover, conceal, get them out. And
exactly right. So
it's just verbal Aikido, and you should go to EP school that teaches you and trains you on different weapon systems aside from a gun, because that your mouth is the best gun you have, is your verbal ability to talk your way out of situations.
Yeah, I mean, Mark, you're a EP guy that's your value. I'm more of a generalist. I'm an investigative consulting is more my background. Clearly been doing EP and security related or managing things, for a long time. But it's an art, and it needs to be managed the right way. But a lot of that has to do with the advanced work that's done, and are we properly putting you in the right position to be successful? And the last thing I would say on that point is, and the enemy gets a vote, right? The countermeasures we put in place drive the evolution of the threat. So we've got to continually evolve so we can mitigate those vulnerabilities and or risks to our customers. It's a cat and mouse game, and we've got to be scholars of that and continue to drive our own evolution and disrupt ourselves so we can be better. And why are we placing an armed guy in front of a bank? Does he really need to be armed? And is he really going to be effective? All those things. So we need to be better about just reacting and thinking through what we're actually doing and advising our clients as to why this does or doesn't make sense.
And I think the best practices by many organizations, I think they need to raise their level. I mean, just seeing the Denver, Colorado situation with that, the black pepper mace, bear mace, whatever it was, and the guy taking out his gun. We have to raise the bar and best practices for all organizations, just to just be professional about what we're doing.
Agree.
And the shortcuts aren't worth it because legally it can cost you millions. Anyway.
That's what keeps me up at night, my friend.
I believe it. And before I let you go, it's cyber forensics, cyber crime, is that like going crazy right now?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Yeah. And again, we have cyber security partners and folks within the company that, that we utilize to support our clients. But, we did this webinar and I was up part of it on Wednesday on cyber and physical security risks for home remote workers. And the trends are huge with COVID. There's all kinds of scams, all kinds of things going on. It's big business, and they continue to steal more and more money from people, and they're being successful, so it's not going to end anytime soon.
Now, where are these foreign actors coming from involved in cyber crime? Are they coming from out of country, foreign governments?
I think they're everywhere. Yeah, everywhere. They're foreign state actors. They're part of organized crime groups. They're Billy,
Okay.
The 16-year-old kid in the basement. It's everywhere. Yeah, domestic and foreign threats. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Keeps us busy. Keeps us
That's
making money.
Job security, man.
Plenty of it, and I think we're going to see more of it here in 4 weeks, 5 weeks. All right, Robert. Well, I think we're finished up here. I don't think you have things to do, but thank you for your time. And if anybody wants to get a hold of Robert Dodge, you can reach me first, and then there's other channels. I know he's busy on his phone. I'm not going to give out his phone number, so I'll take it from there. And thanks for your time, Mark. Again. And you have a good weekend, and we'll see you soon.